How about if I turn my mic on? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Can Demons Do That? You're not going to want to miss this one because this is going to just, wow, give you another perspective on Can Demons Really Do That? So please, if you have questions, pop them in. We have great moderators that will let me know. Welcome. Hi, Michelle, Lori. You guys, thanks so much for joining me tonight. And everybody else out there, pop questions in. If you got something out of this, please give us a like, thumbs up, questions, criticism, pop it in anytime. But right now, we are actually going to say our St. Michael prayer and get started on the not so much of a movie review of The Deliverance. As I said, tonight's video is a movie review about a horror movie called The Deliverance. It's not intended for anyone with children in the room, please have them leave, or anyone with trauma or any other triggers in talking about these issues. Demonology, demons, possession, vexation, that sort of thing. So please, everybody, let's clear the room. Adults only. We're going to pray ourselves in and get right into it. In nomine Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sancto, sic erat in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Sancta Michael Arcangele, defende nos in prelio, contra nequitiam et insidious diaboli esto presidium. Imperit ille Deus supplicis deprecamer tuque, Princeps militia celestis satanum aliosque, spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum pervegantur in mundo divina virtute detrude. Amen. Thank you for joining me. My name is Farah Rose Perry, Sister Farah Rose Perry, OFS. I am a professed lay Franciscan. My bishop calls me an evangelist. I just call myself, I love the flowers and the animals, lets everybody get happy, and I do my best to serve the best I can and help people with problems that are preternatural, supernatural, and a lot of times, because of that, we have a lot of emotional baggage and stuff we deal with. In tonight's show, we're going to outline a case that was sensationalized back in about 2014. I had been asked to, and I get this, so I try and do movie reviews so that we can pull apart some of the elements that are definitely spiritual warfare. And we ask, can demons, with God's will, can he do this? So we look at these in order to glorify God, not to sensationalize or think, wow, how easy is this to be possessed, to be oppressed, vexed. This is not to give the devil any sort of credit. This is to help us in our spiritual walk, in identifying and helping others. And of course, to remind everyone, okay, not just you and I, but this battle's already been won. As I said, this movie called The Deliverance, I would not recommend anybody ever turn this piece of non-celluloid art ever on. Do not watch it. There were people that were asking me, this movie, the pastors aren't recommending. The pastor's saying we should avoid it. Why would they say don't watch the movie The Deliverance on Netflix? Why would they say avoid it? Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. The main reason people would tell you to avoid it is because the movie pointed out many aspects of poverty, many aspects of adults struggling to raise children. The entire movie basically is very, very sad, it's very biased. It's full of idiomatic stereotypes that make no sense in the real world. So, that said, it's a sensationalized movie about horror. And okay, I understand the creature from the Black Lagoon, but we don't want to say, okay, well, Satan's interesting. Let's watch this. I mean, you've never seen this before. This is a movie that I will go over at the end of the show after I talk about the real deliverance, which wasn't a deliverance, it was an actual exorcism, 3 of them to be exact. So let's talk about the case as we go to the next slide. I've got so many notes on this case, you guys. This is crazy. Oh, also, we've got some great moderators in chat. And also, if you miss this show live, please don't hesitate to put your questions down. Subscribe to this channel for more content. Suggest more quasi movies. I don't even want to call this a movie. I'm telling you, I got through part of it and I'm like, really? Do I have to watch anymore? This is how badly cinematically this movie was really not well done. The director said it was based loosely on a case, LaToya Ammons and her family, all claiming that they were possessed by demons. Her family, including her mother, herself, and her children. And you will not see me put the children's images, even though they're older. This is LaToya Ammons from about a 2014 interview with a Star. And a lot of my information I've got to go through and make sure I give credit to the interviews that I looked, because I did a lot of research and I asked some questions in some circles about this case, because Father Maginot, this was his first exorcism. And when I read about how it happened, oh gosh, I felt so bad for Father. This was difficult all the way around. This is our basic for the movie The Deliverance, LaToya Ammons and her mother. Her mother is the grandmother of the 3 children that are involved in being possessed. Both of these women claim to have seen supernatural, preternatural things as explained to the psychologists and the pastors and the churches and everything. And really, literally, the help that they got was just, let me just say, it wasn't even, you can't even classify it as help. And we're talking about this neighborhood background. This is the classic neighborhood background picture. It is a picture of a typical neighborhood. Okay, we're talking about the United States of America, Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana, in case anybody is old enough to remember song. When we talk about this movie, The Deliverance, like I said, we're going to go over the details at the end. I'm going to tell you and walk you through the purported case that was presented to police, to social welfare, child welfare caseworkers, to a psychologist, psychiatrists, doctors, and nurses. And then we're going to talk about, as we parse this out bit by bit, we're going to say, can demons do that? And then I'm going to give you, before we go into the movie, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I see at work here. And this is in no way, shape, or form any sort of criticism or any sort of, I'm not claiming to be all knowing, all smart. I'm basing my opinions on my experience and what the Catholic Church teaches about whether demons can do this or not. Now, this Netflix story, like I said, is based on this real story of LaToya and her mother. They had moved into this home in Gary, Indiana. It's a really pretty, cute little home, too. Beautiful porch in the front. It looks so cozy and sweet. This whole wraparound porch in the front was just very cozy. And, Indiana can get cold, can get hot. It's kind of crazy there. For the most part, though, that porch would have been well used. And it would have been enjoyed enormously by everyone. So these 2 women lived here with her 3 minor children. As I said, you will not see me post any pictures of children because I just don't do that. The children were Armani, Andrew. These are the boys, 7 and 9. Armani was a 7-year-old. And then Ariel. Arian was 12 at the time that they moved into this house. And they moved into that house approximately November of 2011. And this is supposedly when the weird activities started happening. Mom and Grandma noticed on this porch that there was a lot of fly activity. Now, when I say flies, I'm not talking about your just typical house flies. These were, I guess, horse flies, which was so incredibly, you just don't see them in November and December anywhere. So it was interesting that in the interview of LaToya and her mom, in this case, that they said they tried everything to kill the flies and the flies would not die. The flies were on the porch and the flies were coming supposedly out of the basement. Now, I don't know why they would be in the basement, but we're going to get into that basement in a little bit. Now, this was also happening in tandem with LaToya and her mom, Rosa Campbell, seeing dark shadows. They were seeing dark figures in the hall, in the living room, not just out of the corner of their eye, but very brazenly in the home. And they didn't really know what was going on. Now, along with this, as time is going on into January, the mother is hearing thumping footsteps on the stairs. As you can see, this is a bi-level unit, and the daughter, the oldest, the 12-year-old, lives up at the top of the stairs. The other 3 bedrooms are down below, where most everybody else lives. The actual events that led up to the crisis point of this entire case hinge on these 2 women's statements. And then the children, basically, they had a lot of, shall we say, possession signs, but according to the Catholic Church, no real solid signs except maybe 1 or 2 that was, worthy of the minor rite and then the major rite for the mother. Now, LaToya decided there's something going on. We have got a lot of footsteps on the stairs. We've got, these strange flies that won't die. And I'm seeing dark shadows. Her church. Now, this is the sad thing. When you contact your pastor or your priest or your church, what do we need? What do we need from them? No telling, but most of all, we need spiritual guidance, counseling, and support. So when we look at the actual facts of this case as related to reporters, these women went in, spoke to elders, and they said, well, your house has spirits. Okay. My house has spirits, yes, and... well, I just don't know what we can do, but what you need to do is go get yourself some ammonia and bleach. Take it and wash that whole house down. And then after you do that, you're going to take olive oil and anoint your children. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of anointing children with olive oil, especially if it has been properly blessed. However, I think that there just was not a continuity. There was not a continuity of assistance for them spiritually, so they were kind of stabbing blind in the dark. They did bleach the house. They did, make sure that they used ammonia on all the surfaces, the basement, and that pretty little porch area. They did bless the kids with olive oil, but guess what? They were still seeing black figures, dark, mysterious figures. They were still getting flies. So what did they do? If your church isn't helping you, let's call a psychic. So they called in not one, but 2 clairvoyants Who doesn't do that when you have a demon in the house? Let's go call a clairvoyant. Have mercy, Lord. Okay, I didn't say that. I did say that. Have mercy. When we make the mistake of calling in a clairvoyant to answer questions that God can answer for us, we're opening ourselves to infestation, vexation, and oppression. Just saying. We haven't even gotten to the can demons do that yet. So this is really, this has put them at a crossroads. Because once you step out of right ordered authority, boom, you're in the carnival house of what? The malignant little monsters, because anything goes now. So they invite these clairvoyants in. The second clairvoyant tells them, you have 200 demons in your house. Nice, huh? Isn't that a nice thing to tell somebody? But I can't get rid of them, so good luck sleeping with them. The other clairvoyant said, you need to move. It's very dangerous here. Now, of course, these people did not have a lot of money. They couldn't just pick up and leave. There wasn't an option. So they're like, okay, so what can we do? What can we do to get rid of all the stuff that's happening? And they said, well, go get yourself some sage, get yourself some sulfur, and burn it from the top to the bottom. Just burn it, burn it, burn it. And then while you're at it, since you're down in the basement, set up a white altar and put some white on and get some statues of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph and all the statues you can find, and just set up an altar and just pray. That's what they did. So basically, it stunk up the house. And then, according to LaToya, 3 nights later, this is where it gets hairy. Okay? So if we're going to talk about, can demons do any of this stuff? Low level. I mean, I'm talking about the lowest of the low level. Do the little dance in front of your eyes, the little black shadows, the little black gremlins. I call them cockroaches. Stamp them out. Use holy water. Send them to the foot of the cross. Bind them there and ask the Holy Spirit come and replace it, okay? This is low-level stuff. When you are seeing these kind of dark shadows, this is, I call it parlor games, because what? They love to invite us to bigger and better parlor games, and this is just one of them. The whole flies things that won't die is this infestation or is this not infestation? Can demons really do that? Well, of course they can summon up any number of nasties. Rats, flies, mosquitoes, especially swarms. Now, this is probably the next level beyond the black nasties that you see. Meaning what? This tells me if this were actually true, the black shadows would have probably appeared before you get all these nasty flies. Now, just using some reason here, what if we had garbage and larvae had laid eggs and you've got a hatch? Is that going to happen in November? Why, yes. Logically, yes. Has it happened to me before accidentally? Yes. So, were the flies really hard to die and kill, or was this some other problem? And the reason I bring this up is because in my investigation of this case, it is sad to report that 2 years or 3 years prior to the mother and the grandmother reporting these unusual things, the mother was charged with neglect, and in the sense that she was not sending her children to school, and she was not taking care of them, and that she was not making them go to school. She was letting them stay home. The events surrounding this in 2009 were not made public, as many of you know. I mean, if somebody calls CPS on you, you neighbor can't just go and look up what the details are. It is what it is. It's just a report. If they convict you, they can come after you. A lot of times now, Child Protective Services can just remove a kid because your neighbor said, "Oh, I saw you beat him with a hairbrush," whether you did or not. This is overreach. So we're going to go into our next slide and talk about what can demons do next. Now, this part of the story is going to take it into the next level. And we're going to talk about, oh, thank you so much, Lori. We're going to talk about these two women are basically confused what's going on. The church, their local church, is really a dead end. They're just telling them, go bleach it and you know what, it's fine. No, it's not. Clairvoyants are like, oh, just move, you got 200 demons, you can figure it out, just put some sage. Please, people, sage and sulfur is not a cure for anything. I mean, sage is delicious occasionally. However, if you are not close to even like a quarter Native American, don't mess with sage to shut spirits up. It's just asking for trouble. That said, when these women used their faith to do what they did, it got quiet for 3 whole days. Now, this is by their own testimony that things were okay for 3 days. And I tell people the same thing when they say, oh, I used sage and it was fine for a while. Yeah, and then what happened? You may not see it now. You may see it in 10 years. You may see it in 20 years. You don't know how long that demon is going to pester and vex your family. This is when the fun stuff started ramping up. The mother and the daughter, thank you, Lori. I always forget to do that. Everyone, please give a like and subscribe to the channel so that I can get more content like this to you. And please don't be upset if I say hello to people in chat, if I interrupt with questions. It's just part of the ritual here. We're talking about Latoya and her mom. They're very, very confused. They're wanting to try any solution. And we find out later in the research that Latoya and her mom have watched a lot of shows with ghost hunters and with haunted investigations. So they're very, very aware of how things ought to have been done. And not with clairvoyance. Although most ghost hunter shows, they bring the psychic, they bring the clairvoyant saying, oh yeah, there's a demon here, there's a demon there. And then they've got, some phony demonologist, some phony reverend that's going, oh yeah, get out of here, Satan. But they don't really show you the lives of these people. They don't really show you the things that happen when you dabble with things that you do not have the authority to stick your meddling nose in front of. This is dangerous stuff. The next thing that happened with these poor women, according to their own testimony, is that the daughter, Ariana, I believe her name is, woke the grandma and the mom up, and she was levitated off the bed. Now, hi, Billy, welcome. There is no, in my mind, and this is my opinion, because we're talking about can demons do that, there is no evidence other than their word that this happened, physically happened. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about when I say physically happened, because when you say something levitated, it's physically up, nothing, okay? When you are under demonic oppression and vexation, something can appear to levitate, but it never levitated. You only believed what you saw was real, but it didn't happen. So, can demons do that? Demons can do both, okay? Power of suggestion is really strong here. So they saw the girl lifted up. They're freaking out and they're like, oh my gosh, we got to call somebody. They don't know who to call. And they're like, well, what do we do? So what do? mom and daughter get around her bed and they pray over her. And of course, she just gently floats right back down. And I think the investigation said they were praying. I don't remember what it was. And I'm not laughing about the prayer. I'm just saying they were praying Psalms. And Psalms is good to pray. However, if you're fighting off something that you believe is malignant, demonic, and is about to destroy something that you love, it's a lot quicker to grab the name of Jesus and say, get out, be gone. Now, in spiritual authority, in the level of spiritual authority as taught by our church, that little girl, the mother had spiritual authority over her. The mother had spiritual authority right then, right there, to drive the demon out the house, out her body, gone. Nobody told her that? I don't know. Grandma, no spiritual authority, but she can pray for the intercession of Christ and the angels to remove it. Not directly like the mother. However, they thought everything was okay. Daughter went back to sleep. They went back to bed. Here we go again. The boys. Now we're going to talk about the boys. As I said, we are not showing the minors' faces because we're talking about children that are so young. You know, the little girl that levitated was only 12 at the time. Now, the little boy has an imaginary friend that he sits in the closet downstairs and talks to. The 9-year-old boy that's older than him talks about he's dreaming of his own death and he sees what it feels like to die. These are the things that are disturbing LaToya and her mom, which is, kind of, I was explaining this to somebody earlier. Children are what they see, what they hear, and what they receive. And what do I mean by that? Children are vessels. They're open vessels. Everything you put into them, whether it's a kiss, it's a hug, let's watch a zombie movie. Let's watch a sexy movie. Let's watch a devil movie where a devil jumps out of the closet. Every single thing you put in that child's mind, that child will reflect and that child will enact or develop nighttime fears. Now, this is my biggest query of the entire case. Like I said, there's no judgment here. There is only an objective point of view from a demonologist perspective, from a religious perspective, and from a psychological perspective of wanting to help these children and understand what happened here. When you have children their dad is not around, their dad is not in the picture for whatever reason right now, their mother is being accused of neglect, they move, they don't have a lot of money, she's out of work. When you ignore a child or you don't make time for a child, they're going to act out in ways to get your attention, because to a child, any attention is better than no attention. So if I have to punch my brother, if I have to smack my sister, if I have to growl and act like a demon because that's your favorite show to watch every Saturday night, that's what that child is going to do. And that's a sad thing out there on Amazon. When you're investigating a case that involves children, the most important thing that you can look at is what are the influences in this child's life. Because children are going to act out what they're seeing and what their surroundings are. If they've suffered from traumas, this is going to just explode a case like this. It's going to invite lower level demonics because of the trauma. And it's also going to create an atmosphere of potential vexation, especially if there's not a strong, shall we say, observance of Christian values, of a Christ center in the household. So these children, they were suffering in their own ways. And so for a little boy to hide in the closet and talk about, I don't know what he was talking about in the closet. I don't remember specifically, but it wasn't good. He was talking to this imaginary friend. There was no supernatural knowledge. There was no predictions. There was no information that he had any knowledge of anything anybody was thinking of. He didn't predict that anybody was walking in the door. It was just talking to an imaginary friend that supposedly, said, you're going to die, you're going to go kill somebody, yada, yada. The other boy, kind of sort of the same thing. He would growl, and the mother and grandmother said they had bulging eyes. They had bulging eyes and deep voices. Okay, very deep voices that would growl. They had strange physical behavior. Okay, kids that want attention, they're going to act in strange ways. They're going to do strange things. They're going to steal your stuff and hide it, or they're going to give it away and sell it, depending. So we have a freaked out mother and a freaked out grandmother saying, we got to get him into the doctor. We got to get them seen. We've got to get some kind of help. So this is where Pandora's box is opened. Because instead of getting a priest in there right away or somebody that can help them, this unfortunately expands into clairvoyance and, child protective services members. And it's just so sad. So they take him to this hospital, and the doctor that interviews the kids and the mother notes that all of them claiming to be possessed by demons are suffering from delusions, from hallucination, and could use further clinical psychological support because the kids' behavior might be a direct result of mom's religious beliefs. That's what's in the actual medical reports that came out in numerous interviews. Does that mean this is not demonic? No. Does that mean that this is the way the secular world looks at it? Yes. Can the demonic act in ways through children that make them seem kind of possessed, and then they see a medical professional and there's nothing there? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So we now have the mom and the grandma talking to the police, saying there's something going on in this house. So we now have a seasoned veteran police officer, Police Officer Austin, Captain Austin, who comes out to investigate the house and look for things that could potentially be wrong with, everything that's going on. I mean, this front porch. What's wrong with the front porch? What's wrong with the dark shadows, the flies? Why? She wants to know, how can I help my kids? How can I stop my kids from acting like this? Why are they growling? Why are they acting out? What is wrong with them? And then we have a child protective services worker who basically could not believe her eyes, what was going on. Because in her experience, kids act out, they lash out, but they don't go to the extent that these children did, growling. And the one little boy put his hands on the other little boy's throats and said, I'm going to kill you. Now, in my household, my brothers never said they were going to kill each other, but they choked the heck out of each other all the time. And nobody ever told because you didn't want to get in trouble. They were just playing. This is a different level of anger, of malevolence, according to the mom, LaToya. So while these people are investigating this, they bring in the chief of police as well. Because for whatever reason, they're taking her assertions that there's something wrong with the house, there's something evil in the house, there's something walking around with it, there is something going on. And nobody knows what it is. They have the evidence that the kids are psychologically not normal. LaToya contacted the landlord and said, I can't pay you your rent because I can't work because the demons are inside of me because of your house. The kids can't go to school because of the demons. So the demons were just basically used to say, I'm checking out. I can't do anything. I can't do anything. Does this happen? Can demons really, affect your life that bad? Yes, they can. What happened here? These people lived through a horror, a really bad horror. Were they possessed? I'm still looking for the evidence. Now, when Latoya spoke to the doctor herself, and she talked to the officers and everybody else, she said she knew the minute she was possessed because she felt weak. She felt warm. She felt disoriented. She felt like she wasn't really herself, which kind of makes sense if you feel like you're possessed and you feel like there's something inside of you. However, the majority of people that I know with multiple personality disorder, with bipolar disorder, and other clinical diagnoses also can say the same thing, that when they feel like they're about to separate, or they feel like they're about to have a reaction to a trauma trigger, something very similar happens to them where they feel kind of disoriented. They might feel warm and tingly and just really weak. So can demons do that even though it's not real? Yes, they can. And I'm going to stop right here, right now. And I'm going to tell you something. Anytime that you suffer anything, I don't care if it's a stubbed toe. I don't care if it's like, my ear's buzzing. I don't care if all of a sudden you get a sharp pain in your side. Always. And a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, did I hurt my back? Oh, what did I do? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Maybe I'm getting older. Don't think that way. Maybe you did. Maybe you were a goof nugget and you just like went, oh yeah, I can jump off that rock, and you hurt yourself. Okay. It's going to hurt. However, if some kind of pain comes out of the blue, use the name of Christ, bind it to the foot of the cross, and ask the Holy Spirit to come and replace anything due to the binding. And you keep saying it over and over and over again until you can't anymore. Two things are going to happen. First thing, it's going to go away. Second thing, you feel a little bit better. It'll still be painful. So wouldn't you rather opt for the first, like it goes away? Which means what? Which means it's not natural. So many things that we accept in our lives, God allows so that we'll get closer to Him. Don't assume that every single horrible feeling, physical sensation you have is natural. If we can fight it off, let's do that, okay? So onward and upward to the both. There is something in the chat that I have to address, because as Catholics, a lot of times we will suffer great things like cancer, or maybe a broken bone, or maybe it could be any sort of suffering. This sort of suffering that we know we have no power over, we're blessed in the Catholic faith to say, okay, God, let me suffer this, and as I suffer this, let me just offer this for the holy souls in purgatory. Let me offer it up for, my heretical father, or, may he come back to the church. Whatever you want to offer it for, that's wonderful. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's not the kind of offering it up. I'm talking about a pain that comes out of nowhere. I'm talking about a sudden, instant pain, like a stabbing pain. A sudden headache when you know you've got enough sleep and everything else. You want to stay balanced, relaxed. Okay, this isn't me. Assume it's not. Assume it's not of you. However, if you do get migraines regularly, and I know many, many people suffer horribly from migraines, if you know it's coming on, pray yourself through it, pray for the will of God, and do, if you can offer up that suffering for something, do. I'm talking about a supernatural occurrence that may not be natural. So let's go on. Very welcome, dear. Thanks, Billy, for the question. I love it because it keeps me thinking too. Now, when we look at the claims that LaToya and her mom were, getting everybody involved, all agencies, police officers, psychiatrists, they were trying so hard to help these kids because they didn't know what was going on with the kids. And the kids themselves, they were acting kind of confused too. So they weren't exactly, they weren't helping the psychiatrist or the psychologist with anything other than answering normal questions and saying, well, we're fine. They don't remember anything. So consequently, that's all the psychiatrists and the doctors had to go on. So the second time I believe she brought him back in was a very, very violent. They literally had to have 5 men hold her 9-year-old son down. The 7-year-old was hissing, spitting, trying to choke the 9-year-old. It was really super ugly. And here at the hospital, nobody knew what had gotten into these kids. And she says, I told you, I don't know what's going on with my kids. You have to help them. You have to help my babies. I don't know what to do. The, the clinical psychologist for the hospital was in the room. There was a nurse in the room. There was a police officer in the room. Her mother and LaToya and this little tiny wisp of a boy, 7 years old, just growling and hissing and threatening and cursing, and just his grandma is holding him by the hands. I mean, you know how grandmas hold their little kids. Come on, I love you, calm down. Then the nurse noticed he had this weird smile, and all of a sudden, as grandma's holding his hands, he's walking backwards up the wall, pushes and flips over his grandma and lands on his feet and smiles. When they saw him walk up the wall, the nurse noted his hands never left his grandmother's hands, not once. His grandmother held on to him the entire time. The cop ran out of the room. Clinical psychologist ran out of the room. The social worker ran out of the room. Everybody is freaked out. They're like, I'm out of here. I didn't sign up for this. They're just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Now, okay. Devil's advocate here. Yes, the devil can do stuff like that and has done much worse. Usually making faces, like, cracking somebody's face in half, giving them black eyes. The circus act is not, shall we say, it's not in the normal purview of their antics and tactics. So, I looked into this, and I looked into the people that actually witnessed and saw this, and bear with me here. I'm not saying this happened, but I'm saying if we're going to say, can demons do that? Can humans do that? Is it possible that this child was so angry and so upset and was just, these are prepubescent children full of hormones, full of upset feelings, emotions that their dad's not with them. They are strapped for cash. Could that little boy have gotten so angry and put his feet, pushing against his grandmother holding on to him? Could he have used that as a fulcrum and backed up that wall and pushed off and flipped over her? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. My brothers and sisters and I used to do all kinds of weird stuff like that growing up on monkey bars and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we were lucky we didn't break half of bones and face and noses and everything. Did that happen? Only God knows. Can the demons do that? Yes. Was everybody freaked out? Yes. This is one of those things that there is no way to look at it and say this family was not suffering horribly. Everybody that saw this, they witnessed something that they had not seen before. Does that mean that this boy was possessed? Not necessarily. Vexed? Yes. And there's a big difference between vexation and possession, okay? They were all claiming that they were possessed. They had demons inside of them, and they had this and they had that. And not one person spoke in a language they didn't understand. Not one person had any kind of knowledge, preternatural, supernatural knowledge of anybody's anything or anything. There's no predictions, no prophecies, no nothing. The church has specific outlines of what must be in place in order for a person to be classified. Yes, we need the major rite because there's a possession. However, a vexation can still call for this sort of major rite. At this point, the hospital is so freaked out, the hospital chaplain calls Father Maginot. Okay, Father Maginot is a local Catholic priest. It's far above his capacities. He says, please, I need your help. This 9-year-old needs an exorcism. He's like, okay. So he's like, all right, I'm going to meet with family. I'll schedule something. So what happens is the family is released. Okay. They clean bill of health, nothing really psychologically wrong with them. Everybody settles down. They go back to the house, which I don't know why they would go back there, but they went back to the house, and Father Maginot comes to the house 3 days later, spends 5 hours. 5 hours, or was it 5 hours? I mean, he spent like so many hours, like 2 or 3 hours interviewing them alone. I mean, he spent so much time so he could make sure that he knew exactly how to attack this. And then he did a minor rite. He took care of the house, tried to clean it, and he says, I think it's going to be best if you all leave. It's dangerous here. Now, this is when the mom, Latoya, and grandma decide, let's pack our stuff and let's get out of here. It's too dangerous. They get the kids, they go out. However, the children are still acting up, and there's now really something going on in the house, okay? We have, after they leave, we have people coming in. The police captain wants to know what's going on, because there's a major investigation into these children opened, because the Department of Social Services and Child Protective Services got a call saying this mother's neglectful. This mother put these ideas in those children's head. So they have to investigate. There is another call into the woman that I showed you before. And guess what? She wanted nothing more to do with this. She said, heck no. She actually moved to another state. She thought, not only is this real, but it's too creepy. She's not having it follow her. She's done. She's out. So they called in a new one. Wait till I tell you what happened to her. There was like 4 or 5 people, I believe. There was police chief, there was an inspector, there was that one 26-year-old police force officer, very, very, very reputable man, Father Maginot, and the new DSS worker who was there to check out how the kids had lived and everything else. And this is some of the things that they found. Now, they went into the upper level room, I think it was. The upper level room, like I said, they had 2 stories. Top one where the daughter slept. Now, this was not in the daughter's room, but this was in one of the rooms. And I'm not sure if you can see this, because this is really kind of interesting. What happened was, as they were looking through these rooms, they noticed this glossy fluid down the center of the blinds. Now, usually if you spill something, I don't know if you've ever, just dropped your coffee or whatever, it's gone all over the blinds. Usually there's a splatter pattern, okay? Usually there is, from exit to entry, there is a point that hits on this exact blind. They look around. There's nothing coming from the ceiling, nothing coming from the top. The window is not open. There is no excuse for this oil, none whatsoever. So what they do, they grabbed a couple things and they just wiped it. They're like, this is weird. And then Father Madge knows, well, it might not be weird. Let's close the door. So they basically closed the door. And one of the police officers and I think the social worker, the Child Protective Services worker there, not the social worker psychologist, they were following around Father Maginot. Now what we have here is they go down to the basement and they find, and this is really kind of sad, these are the stairs. These are the stairs that the police officer went and looked at. This is really wild. This is underneath the stairs. There's a big, huge concrete wall, okay? And where you see this police officer at, he has actually found dirt, a plot of dirt. Now, this dirt is really not that spectacular. It's probably no bigger than, I don't know, like a small closet. It's very, very tiny. However, they were thinking, maybe this was used for satanic rituals, which they dug up the dirt, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But that was the big hubbub, was like, there's dirt, and it's got to be a portal from hell, and this is where the demons came through. So there's all these suppositions what was going on with this house that would cause this whole family to believe that they were possessed, truly possessed, horribly possessed. And the sad thing is, you guys, they were trying to help the kids, because the kids are the ones that were suffering the worst. All right, when you have kids that are suffering, especially when you're talking about CPS workers and you're talking about psychologists and everybody else getting involved, that's the hard thing. How do you know? How do you know for sure? It's really difficult. This that I'm showing you right now, this is something else. Above the dirt area, there was an area right above in the wall. This is where the dirt is, right next to the stairs. There was an area that was hollowed out. And later in the investigation, not this investigation, because this house was rented out after this. Yeah, if you can believe that. Later on in the investigation, after this house was purchased by a, shall we say, a entertainer on TV, the house was torn apart and child's bones were found in there. It came out that there was a child that had burned to death accidentally. But there was no real evidence of any sort of, shall we say, spells, rituals, or anything else connected with the basement. They were convinced, though, something was going on there. The place felt evil. So we have the Child Protective Services girl go in with the police officer to check out these blinds. And guess what? The blinds were not clean. And yes, this is really sad and it is very depressing. And the whole situation is just horrific. That's why I really don't recommend you even waste your time on seeing the movie The Deliverance. And I'll tell you why, like I said, when I get to the end here, guys. So they find more oil on the blinds, and Father Maginot is convinced there's something evil in this house, because there's just no excuse how instantly oil can appear. And this woman, Child Protective Services, goes and she's like wiping her hands, she's like touching it like this. And she instantly got this burning sensation. She goes to wipe it off and she goes downstairs and she claimed her hand turned white. I've seen the pictures. Doesn't really look too white to me, but hey, if she felt the blood rush out of it, she had an instant reaction. So, can demons do what these people are uncovering? Can demons light a fire and kill a child? Yes, they can. Can demons inspire, play the game with somebody's mind and have somebody kill a child and shove them in a wall? Yes. Can demons create, and I don't mean create necessarily, but can demons use something natural and make it appear preternatural, like this goop on these blinds? Yes, they can. That's the difficult thing. There's so many signs that say this is so evil that there was something evil attracted to this house, but I'm not seeing the signs that they're claiming they were possessed by demons. I think they were vexed. I seriously think they were absolutely vexed. So, as we understand, the inspector that went up to the attic to look and see what's going on with the house, what are the natural potential causes? What are the things that could have caused this sort of psychological meltdown, psychological breakdown? Aside from spiritual, what could have really happened with these kids? Now, if we look at it from the outside, the house was a really beautiful house. It was just an adorable little house. There didn't appear to be anything. But I'll tell you what, like my house in Springfield that I just left before I, married my husband, the people that had owned it before me took and painted, or two owners, painted the whole, it's brick, okay? The whole thing pink, okay? Pepto-Bismol, puke pink. Now, the next people that owned it didn't like it. So they got somebody that basically acid washed the whole thing and covered siding. Now, for those of you not familiar with construction, not familiar with how absorbent and how, concrete can absorb, cannot absorb, I'm going to give you a quick education. Never, never, never let anybody acid wash concrete, paint off your concrete. It basically leaves so many gaps that because of the humidity and moisture, major mold problems happen in the wall. That's what the inspector found. The inspector found in the attic where that young girl appeared to have levitated, they found levels of mold, levels of asbestos, and other things that could have, not necessarily did, but could have caused euphoria, disorientation, and certain, not hallucinations, but could mess with your mind, basically. And that's what molds do. So, the inspector was he had to write this up. So the owner had to get that fixed before they rented it out. Okay. It was just like, it was a mess. Now, at this point, the DSS worker, or Child Protective Services worker, I don't know what they call them there, the blonde lady is just freaked out. She wants to get out of there. She's done. She's the new gal. She's out of there. She recommends the children be taken out. She's like, this is no way for children to live. I don't know what's going on. But obviously, she has positioned her children to believe that they're possessed, and there's nothing here. She's one of those. Nothing here. It's not supernatural, so the kids are taken away. The older two, the 9 and the 12-year-old, are taken up to Chicago. The baby, the little one, is kept locally because they want him under psychiatric care and to have an intensive evaluation. Okay? This poor kid. Now, all the family claiming that they were possessed by demons was evaluated numerous times, including the grandma. No one had any sort of, shall we say, mood disorder. No one had any kind of personality disorders. They were all thinking clearly, including the kids. Now, the boy who was supposedly showing the biggest amount of possession, the one that walked up the back, backwards on the wall thing, he, when interviewed by a clinical psychiatrist and a psychologist and being filmed, acted possessed. He snarled, he growled, his face looked like it was contorting. Nothing supernatural, nothing preternatural, just acted like a possessed little, raging little kid. Now, this is what therapists do. Distract. Okay, excuse me, because in order to get somebody from focusing on what they're doing, you have to distract them and get them out of it to find out if this is really what's going on. Or maybe it is something that is, shall we say, an ideation. Something that's not natural, but something that is being used so that people see this is what it is, but it's not really what it is. So they're trying to get to him by interrupting him in various measures that they use. And every time that they tried to talk to this little boy about what was going on with who was possessing him and what he was going through, he would look at them and say, well, if I go to outer space, am I going to die? He would redirect the conversation. He would ignore their questions completely. He would redirect the conversation to any kind of normal kid talk, like math questions, outer space questions. So they were kind of baffled by why he would not even address the fact that he didn't remember what was going on. He didn't know, he was doing any of this. But clearly, he was able to turn it on and turn it off because he could just do it and then say he didn't remember it. So what was really going on with this child? Now, can demons do that with a child? Can they truly vex a child to that position to where they're appearing to be normal? Yes, demons can do that. And in some cases where, the parents are playing with Ouija boards and the parents are, inviting children in to adult conversations and adult movies and entertainment, this sort of vexation can happen very easily and very fast, sadly. Now, this new investigation provided a host of new problems for the people doing it. So this is not just LaToya and Grandma and all these kids being possessed by demons. Now we have other people being seriously affected. The inspector that had come in and found the mold, he had, a near car accident and came down with cancer relatively very shortly. Almost died from the cancer. It was just horrific. I think that, it was one thing after another with a DSS worker that had left the blonde lady because the other one refused to step back in there again. The blonde lady, the second one, she basically had like 4 accidents in a period of 30 days. She broke 3 ribs. She broke her wrist. She broke a number of things. Her ankle, and she attributed, and I'm hoping that these incidents that she attributed to that house, I hope this brought her closer to God, to realize that a stronger relationship with God is going to help her understand that before you walk into something like that, you really need to put on your armor of God. You need to have a solid knowledge of what you may be exposing yourself to. Her interview went something to the effect of, she told the interviewers that some of her friends had distanced themselves from her because they believed. Now, this is after all the hype about this house had hit the newspapers, all the police knew about it, everybody talked about it. They believed she brought something with her when she went in that house. This is superstitious nonsense, people. Please. Okay, let's say, can demons do this thing again? Okay. Now, if you're going to go into a place that is specifically haunted, infested, and you're going to go entertain yourself and go, oh, is it really there? Can you be infested and bring something home? Heck yes. If you are going there to try and help somebody and help somebody's child, are you going to become infested? Well, if you don't have any relationship with God and He's calling you, yes, it can happen. Demons can do that. Is it going to be likely that you are actually going to bring a few demons home to share with your friends? No. I love the grandmother. The grandmother's the best here when we're talking about the demonics. And I do mean this tongue in cheek because we are all protected in our own ways, but we all also must be very aware of how the lower level demons work, how they invite us to temptation, how they invite us to superstition and to jump into that mindset that, oh yeah, this is happening to me because I have a demon attached to me. I'm so special. No, they love everybody equally, not just you. The grandmother said that she was the only one not possessed because she had special protection from evil, because her and others like her had guardians. Yeah. Next. So, Billy has a question. I have to get to this because this is so important. So, if you're going to go on a ghost hunt, if you're going to go to a specific place that you have heard has activity, any kind of activity, ghosts are really, you don't have to hunt ghosts. They're right here, right next to you. They're there. You don't have to hunt them. But if you go someplace that you know has malignant activity, ghost hunting, I don't think that you have to worry that, you're going to bring something home. However, the place that you're going, whether it's a graveyard or if it's a place that's previously attracted murder or evil, can you bring something home with you? The answer is yes. How do you bring it home with you? Jesus Christ knows the intent of our hearts, okay? When you stick your nose, like say I stick my nose into the blade of a saw, is it going to get cut because I'm curious if it's sharp? Heck yes. Okay, so if you're out there and you're looking for the supernatural is going to look at you and say, ooh, you're here too. What can we do to you? So let's not tempt fate. Let's not do it. Let's just not do it. In my book on an investigation, I stress the importance of, if you are going to step into the lion's den and they're hungry, don't expect to come out. Don't. If you're going to step into a preternatural environment that is potentially, shall we say, demonically infested, you can't not expect to come out and not have some sort of oppression attempt to pester you. It's, shall we say, it's relatively going to happen, Watson. It's just going to happen. So I think that, Billy, I wrote a book a few years ago called Haunted Investigations, and I have to edit it and update it, and I haven't done it yet, and Lori's been pestering me for the last year. Thank you, Lori. But some of these things are just so, I believe that they are easily identifiable, because you ought to be able to understand that that's the nature of what the demonic is. If there's a lot of activity in a place and it's continuing and people are saying, oh yeah, listen to this EVP I got. Oh, listen to this. If it's negative, you don't jump in a mud puddle and not get mud on you. So why would you jump into something that was preternaturally haunted and expect nothing to look at you or mess with you? That's all. Okay, let's get back to the movie, because oh, mercy, you guys. We're having too much fun here. So, 2 exorcisms in. Father Maginot's going in for a third time here, okay? He decides that it's time. It's time. Father said, this family suffered enough. I need to get the full right, and I need to get the permission to help her, because she can't do anymore. Her kids are just, they're separated. The family's broken apart. And this is what happens in a lot of things like this. You get families that are just ripped apart. But Father Maginot got this book right here that he's holding from an assistant to help him perform the major rite. Latoya came in specifically for this. She was, like I said, it was the minor rite before. Now it is the major rite. And Father took the time to use that purple stole and pray the prayers in Latin this time. The first two were in English, and the first one was minor. The second one was major, and it was in English. And it was when he finally said the prayers of thanks over her, she fell asleep. And he believed that the vexation had left her. And it is... A lot of people think that an exorcism is just so, lightning bolts and people contorting and everything else. A lot of times an exorcism can be as simple as, I've been to them where they'll just jerk out of the body part wherever the demon actually entered them. And you'd be like, that's it? After, you've just seen a bunch of weird stuff. So this was Father Maginot's saying, she's done, she's clear. And I think that he was right, because she didn't have anything else to bother her or vex her. After they moved away, the kids were totally fine. They were absolutely fine. The kids were given back to her after 6 months. She went on to have a private life, away from, all the hubbub and everything else. However, she fielded a few offers for her story. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. It is the sad thing that Netflix sensationalized it. It is even worse that this house was sensationalized by a popular presence on TV, purchased, bulldozed, and parts of it put in a museum so people could be sensationalized in Nevada. This is the kind of stuff that goes on. And it's, thank you for getting rid of that mind. Oh, mercy, some people. We always have an interesting little thing or two that gets attracted here in this show. My name is Sister Farrah Rose Perry, OFS, Professed Lay Franciscan. Thank you for watching here at Swords of St. Michael. Give us a like, thumbs up, please subscribe. We're going to finish up with my lack of review for the movie, The Deliverance, because I don't want you watching it. It was just, ugh. It was like, ugh. It was horrible. So, she's happy. She reports she has had no more dreams, no more nightmares, no more nothing. Father Maginot did it. He connected all the dots, got the Latin prayers out. She's good. She's clear. And then, so many years later, knock, knock, knock. Actually, it wasn't. It was pretty much right away. Money comes calling. So we've got these people that are vying for her attention, vying for her interviews to do the movie. The producer, I think his name is Mr. Reed, said that basically he was going to do a movie inspired by the events, okay? Now, the interesting thing is in these interviews, the people don't really talk to. They don't talk to her family, who claim that they made it up and they were embarrassed by it, and they don't want anybody knowing that they're even related. They don't really talk to the owner of the house. The owner of the house was leasing it out. Said nothing had ever happened before she moved in. Nothing happened after she left, and he leased it successfully. Nothing happened to those people. What happened? That property, because of the newspaper coverage, the police coverage, everything, it was such a sensation. He had to call the police and say, "Please stop driving by there. The tenants are getting weirded out. That you're by there all the time." They didn't want the attention. That wasn't in the movie. The movie was so loosely based on this entire case. They changed the race of the mother of the the daughter, Latoya, that had gone through it. They had made her into an alcoholic that, basically didn't really take care of her kids. She'd rather party and look pretty. It was very, very sad. The movie took us through this mom that had these kids that liked good things, and she couldn't really give them to them, but she liked to drink, and it was sad how she saw these dark figures out of the corner of her eyes. It followed it so loosely that they did show the daughter levitating. There's a sensationalism. It did show the boys growling and choking at each other. That was really not necessary. The mother's role was horrific. I'm serious, you guys. Don't watch this. Latoya's mother was nothing short than street trash in this movie. And it was just why they would do that to draw attention to this case is beyond me, other than, it's cinematic artistic license. So she had cancer, and the daughter was paying for the treatments. The mother was really horrible and abusive to the daughter. These things were happening. They went to the doctors to try and figure it out. The kid walks backwards. Everybody investigates. The kids are taken away. The mother dies in the movie. The woman is there facing her own demons, and she's binding this stuff away. The movie ends with the woman in the basement, Latoya, sorry if I got her name wrong. And she is facing her dead mother in a demon. And then her dead mother turns into her. So she's got to bind this thing away using the name of Jesus, using the name of Jesus, using the name of Jesus. And all of a sudden she's slammed across the room. And she throws her hands up and blah, 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 blah. She's doing the bibble babble 90 miles an hour. Okay? That's all it is, bibble babble, okay? No coherent language. So, once she does this, the lights come on, and she is cleansed, and she has freed herself from the demons. This is not a movie anybody should see. This case is very, very, very tragic. It's very sad. The amount of evil that can attract to curiosity. And a couple of the exorcists I know say the number one reason for vexation and oppression is curiosity. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is we really have to think about, just because we're curious about something does not mean we should stick our nose into it. Just because we're curious, because maybe we might have had that experience. And I found out that, in my research, that the person that bought this house and bought those stairs, the reason they got so popular when they did on TV, because they took some cinematic, courses in Detroit and thought they saw a ghost in the bathroom. And all of a sudden, boom, instant ghost hunting success. However, for you and I, ghost hunting is not an option. Spiritual warfare is our number one option, because we know the battle's already been won. And we also know that the little ones and the big ones are going to gnash their teeth and stomp their feet and try and get our attention. And our eyes must always be on heaven, where we're going, God willing. So if nobody's got any more questions, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got something out of this show. Please give it a like, a thumbs up, share it with other people that may have had questions about this case, Latoya Ammon's case. It was very, very... Some people say it's the worst case. I'm sorry. My friend Shia and Deb's case was way worse than this. This is a bad case. However, the extenuating circumstances and everything around it are so sad, especially the fact that her son just died at 17 years of age in 2021, the little 9-year-old boy. they wouldn't say what the cause of death was, but he died. So requiescat in pace to her children, and I hope God blesses them and takes care of them, and I hope they never have to deal with that again. So I really appreciate you guys, because you guys are really inspiring me to do more shows and dig in deeper to these concepts that are fed to us by media that are supposed to be so natural, and they're not. They're not. So I'm hoping I'm going to get another live show in about 2 weeks, just before Christmas, if I can squeeze it in. If not, it'll be after the holidays, but I will see you for Sunday meditation moment. Thank you again for joining us. My best wishes for a very peaceful, inspirational Advent as we lead up to the birth of the Christ child at Christmas. And if you're not catching me live, post your comments, post your questions, post your complaints and your gripes. God bless you all, and good night.